Hi, this is Dr. Jonathan Kuttner. Today I want to talk about something that's really interesting. It was a patient that I saw who has scoliosis. Now, scoliosis is where you have an S-shaped curve in your spine, which is something you're born with usually. And what she described is that she'd had pain for a very long time from the scoliosis, but she described this, which is really interesting, that some days, for no particular reason, the top part of the S was incredibly painful. Now, when that was really sore, the bottom part felt just fine, so she had no pain there. And then a few days later, for no particular reason again, it would switch. So the bottom half would be incredibly sore, and the top half, which previously had been torturing her, was perfectly better. So that was the first part of what we discussed. Now, what I said to her was, what explanation have you been given for why it is that the pain can switch from one area to another? And she said, well, it's because I've got a scoliosis. That's why. But the interesting thing is that if you were to think of it logically, if you had an abnormal shape to your spine, every time you stood up and you stressed it by gravity, what should happen is the area should ache. Some parts may ache slightly more than others, but the whole thing should be sore. So I then raised the question, isn't it odd that you have absolutely no pain in one area and a lot of pain in the other, and then a few days later it switches completely? And when she started thinking about it, she said, well, actually it is odd. It is odd. So the question is, how can you explain this? And the way you can explain it, you can't explain it on a physical basis because, as I said, if there's abnormal joints or discs or some structures, then the whole thing should ache, or the areas that some areas could be more than others, but the whole thing should ache. So the only way you can explain it is that her pain system, in other words, the system that we have to send messages from our body up to our brain, that system, which is nerves talking to other nerves, going right up into the brain where you decode the messages. Now, this system has an ability to turn up amplifiers or turn down amplifiers, which it does all the time, to let you know that there is an area which is damaged or you are in danger. That's what your pain system does. Now, when you have chronic pain, what happens is that your pain system starts to do weird stuff. And it starts to send messages from areas which don't have that much wrong with them, amplifies those messages so you feel incredible pain. But it also has the ability to turn down an amplifier and make an area which previously was painful, painless. And this is what was happening with her. So she had a pattern which had occurred over a number of years. And the pattern would be the top would hurt like crazy, the bottom would feel fantastic. The bottom would hurt like crazy, the top would feel fantastic. The only explanation is that her pain system was turning up the amplifiers at the top and turning them down at the bottom and doing the opposite the next few days, which is what happens when your pain system malfunctions. It's not a disease, it's just a malfunction. So the message for everybody is, if you have chronic pain, look for the things that don't make sense. If you, every time you bend forward, oh, this thing hurts, but when you stand up straight, it feels easier. And it always happens, and it's completely predictable, and there's obviously a mechanical thing going on. That makes sense. That's cool. Okay, you need to sort out, you need to change how you bend, and there's a whole lot of other issues that you need to do and sort out why it is that your back is so sore. But if your back does weird stuff, just like this lady, if you find that, she thought it was just the way it is because that's the way her pain system behaved. If it doesn't make sense, then you're not dealing with a mechanical problem. You're not dealing with something in your body. You're dealing with something in your pain system. So our conversation went on, and she said, what I imagine when it's really bad is that, and then she kind of paused and she said, it's like if you're driving and then suddenly a car's going by and suddenly a stone comes flying, it hits the windscreen in front of you, and it then shatters. The windscreen doesn't shatter in, it just goes like crazy paving right in front of you. That's what I imagine when I feel this terrible pain. I feel it spreading out just like that. Now, this is even more powerful. So what we discussed was that it's really difficult to explain pain. If you're feeling a horrible pain inside you, it's so hard to get somebody else to appreciate quite how it is. So what she had done there was create a metaphor, create an image, which she could then share with me. I said, ooh, yeah, I get that. But she also had created this image for herself. And therefore, the moment the pain started, the moment she perceived the beginning of the pain, what jumped into her mind was this spreading like crazy, like across a windscreen, which is such a destructive image, such a powerful image. And that then would turn up the amplifiers even further, because the amplifiers are not separate from us. They're doing crazy things, but actually they're under our control. But it requires work to do it. So what I suggested to her was this. If you can imagine a film, and the film is that very slowly you see this rock coming, or the stone coming towards the windscreen, strikes the windscreen, it starts to shatter, and then the thing spreads across the windscreen. Okay, that's the image that you have in your mind. Now, run the film backwards. So what you have is this thing across the windscreen with the crazy paving across it, and then you imagine it running backwards. So the crazy paving slowly shrinks, and as it shrinks, it's replaced by perfect, smooth, beautiful glass, until finally it shrinks down to a tiny spot. The stone slowly disappears and perfection is left behind. So this is an image. This is what's called a Miura Mind. Neuro is nerve and mind. This is a Miura Mind practice that she will do every day. Whenever she starts to get the pain and sees that happening, she then reverses it and returns it back to perfection, to smoothness and beauty. And what that does is that sends messages down her spinal cord along what's called, there is a pathway that runs, which turns down amplifiers. And so it's going to go down that pathway to the amplifiers and turn them down. It's a very, very powerful process. And the pathway is called the descending inhibitory pathway. EIP, descending from your mind, inhibiting, turning down amplifiers. And so she can Once you recognize that you have a tool, you can use imagery, you can use music, you can use relaxation, but this is a very specific image that she can use to return, to stop this powerful metaphor that she created, to return it back to normal. And what will happen over time if she does this as absolutely regularly, her pain will diminish. This is powerful, and recognize for most people with chronic pain that this is what happens, that your pain system starts to malfunction. It will amplify certain areas, sometimes long after the body is healed. Amplify that area, you feel horrible pain. You may see changes on the MRI, but that MRI, that just shows the moment there's a bit of damage which could have occurred 30 years ago, the MRI will continue to show damage, but your body usually has adapted and healed. There are millions and millions of people with actual pictures of damage on their spine, but no pain. Used to have pain, but it got better. They have normal pain systems. If you have ongoing pain, then your pain system is adding to the pain that you're feeling, and sometimes is the only thing that's causing your pain. Thank you.